Hi guys. So, this is going to be my first ever video, and I'm not going to do a lot of editing on this. I'm just going to try to do it one take as best I can, because that's not your girl's skill set. I'm sick right now, so sorry if I sound sick or if I look tired. It's because I'm both. But, I had two different video ideas, and I'm going to start with the serious one. Just because of the vibe of my channel. I know I'm a comedian most of the time. But recently I've been giving you a lot more slice of life stuff because of my phone being broken, which is fixed now, so I can actually use it for filming. I'm filming this one on the old one though, so yeah, let's get started. I wanted to tell you guys a story, okay? So here's the story. Oh, hi. Sorry, my cat came to interrupt. Say hello. Yeah, kitty, kitty. Okay. So, let me tell you a story. A long time ago, there was a little girl, and I don't know how old she was, but she was young, somewhere between the ages of 6 and 11. And she grew up in a small little house, in a small, quiet place, where it was magic all the time. Either it was her parents casting spells and weaving stories, or it was the places she was at. She grew up a part of a wonderful land of magic and storytelling. And she was so proud to be a part of that. She was too young at the time to partake in the telling of stories, or the dancing or the singing that went on in the place that she loved to go so much. But it was definitely a space of performance, and she learned a lot from all the acts and the wonderful people that worked there. They were like a second family to her. Her mom would take her there and show her the beauty of the place she was in, and how a building so small as the one that they were in at the moment could transport people in time and space and show them a world that they'd never thought of or even hoped to conceive in their mind. And so this little girl grew up there, helping her mom. Her mom worked there and was in charge of putting color in the world. With her magic ink and pen, she crafted realities of color. She was given the story and was told the beats of the story, and she had to make it physically appear. The daughter would somehow help her find her canvases, find the pieces of reality that she needed to recolor, because you can't make reality out of nothing. That's impossible. So she'd help her find her reality, or create it. Though she wasn't very good, so she didn't really get to do a ton, she loved it and enjoyed it greatly. She got to meet so many famous people there. She met the characters of the stories, the main characters, the background people in the streets. She loved the people of the streets. Those were her favorite. Though the main characters were insanely interesting and very cool to see. Pause, my cat is here again. Hello, kitty. Hi. How are you? Okay, there. Sorry. Back to the story. She loved seeing how talented and wonderful the main characters were. Because after all, they were only people too. Painted to look like they are from that place in time that doesn't even exist. And they fashion themselves into these characters. They become someone new. She got to witness them as themselves and as the characters, and the little girl thought that that was one of the most glorious things she'd ever seen in her life. But she loved the dedication of the townsfolk She loved to see the people in the background of every single story. One of the people that's the most in the background is actually the person that never goes in front of the audience. The person that you never get to hear their name. And that's the author. Now, in the place she was, a lot of the time they would just hear the author's story in a far-off land and then take it to their own space and reimagine it. But there were a couple times when the author was the one that was imagining it right off the bat, right in the room. And those were some very spectacular times. The one she remembered the most was a mystery. It was a magical mystery realm, and these two detectives had to figure out what to do and how to solve this mystery. And it was beautiful. There was singing and dancing and acting. She always said that it was the talent surprised her. She loved talking to the reimaginer, the person that took that story and made it real. And she loved talking to that person and asking them how they think of all these great ideas and how they talk to these people and get them all to come together the way they do, to inspire them. They always told her, if you have the passion, they will have the passion. And if you believe it'll work, they believe that it'll work. And she took that in her heart and made sure that she'd never forget it. But one year was different. One year she didn't have to help a lot with the creation of the world, physically speaking. Only her mom could do some of the detailed work that was needed. Though there was some beautiful things in it. A very beautifully crafted bookshelf, a lemonade stand, and an awesome lattice, like a painting scaffold with a spiral staircase next to it. That was a very fun thing to her. She loved running up and down the spiral staircase, even though she wasn't allowed to. And all of her favorite performers had come back. All of them had come back this year to perform during the spring for all of the travelers and adventurers coming through the town. She had to meet so many people that way. So she went and talked to the Imaginator and said, "Hi, what are the stories that you will be telling?" And she said, "A gifted con man sweeps through a town with a plot to leech the town of its money and leave. But his plan goes awry and is forced to create a guild of bards." She said, "Oh, I love bards." The next story, the second, is a story of kids bracing against the horrible trials of life, even at such a young age of 6. She said, "They're young like me." Then she nodded her head and continued and said, "And the third one is also a story of kids, a little bit older, 13 to 18. She said, they have to face against starvation, loneliness, and no help in sight. The cops are out to get them. No one in the world cares about them. Orphans. And they must fight for safety, and for money, and for love, and for the right to live without being tortured and prosecuted, escaping jail, and rallying actively in the streets to defend themselves and to escape this horrible land that they're in, and to find true love. She said, "Wow, that story sounds incredible." So, it touches her soul. It is now her favorite story she has ever seen. And she's super excited to see all of her best friends, her idols, and her family create the show. Now, might I go back in her past and say that she is young, and she is an only child. She always wanted family. And so, this playhouse that she is at everyone there has always been her family. She witnesses this show, and them doing it, had a different level of emotion. Something that she had never felt before, and it touched her soul. She described it as her soul being a still lake up to the present, since birth to now. And that play, dropping a stone in the center of the pond, that rippled, and the ripple grew and grew until it was a massive wave coming out from the center, big enough to sink the Titanic. And she sobbed. During that show, she sobbed and she cried openly in front of people because of how greatly it touched her. She knew that she would never be the same person again. That was a turning point that changed her whole identity. She knew from that point on that she wanted to do this for the rest of her life, be a part of this playhouse, these things like this, no matter if it was here or somewhere else in this universe. She had to keep doing this. So, she signed up for some classes. She went on a journeyous camp that traveled around. Well, didn't travel far, and they worked all throughout the theater playhouse for 1 week to learn how to act and to sing and dance and to become a bard. She worked and she worked and she worked. And they performed, and it was so nice. But they were still so young, and she knew that. She had it in her mind. She knew what they looked like. She knew that they weren't backflipping, spectacular, graceful, beautiful swans of dance. And she knew that they weren't opera singers or glorious, belting bravado champions. She knew that they were weak in voice. And acting was not so. They barely had it memorized, let alone were acting. She knew that she herself was not good enough yet. So she did this class every year until she was better. She knew that she had to work really, really hard because she was not ready yet. Nope, not yet. So every summer she continued to do that camp and to go to every single show. Her mom slowly became sick and was unable to craft realities anymore. It started slowly, and she did less and less work at the playhouse until eventually she had to quit. And it broke the little girl's heart. And because she knew that her mom, what she loved the most of all, was creating realities and talking to those actors. They all loved her. But they still went to the shows every summer on their circuit. So, the little girl's new dream was that she would get into that summer circuit. Because, gosh darn it, if her mom can't do it, she has to. So she worked really hard at home and did those camps every summer without fail. And watched the shows as much as she physically could afford. And slowly that became less and less. But that wasn't anyone's fault, and she knew that. She slowly drifted away from the actors as they became their own people and she became her own person. She got older. And then one day, all of a sudden, out of all this work, she was 13. And she had been working so hard, but she had realized something along the way, which made her almost not want to do the amazing thing that I'm about to tell you. She had been told that she was not good enough her whole life for everything you can think of. She went to school, but she was never good at it, even if she tried. She didn't really understand why. The doctors said that there was something different in her brain, but she didn't get it. It just hurt. Everyone around her was very mean to her. And there was no difference in theater. She felt so hurt by that. But she decided to take this opportunity, which I will tell you now. A new program opened up. It was like a theater school. At the same time as school, you can take about the same amount of time as school and do a show. You pay to be, and they teach you how to be good, really good. And her favoriteest director in the whole world was directing it. They were doing a story about a princess who'd forgotten that she was even a princess. And these two scoundrels who wanted to scam the royal throne, and they knew that she looked quite a bit like the princess. So they teach her how to be a princess and take her all the way to this foreign land to try to convince the people there that she is the princess. And she loved it. She had to work the hardest she'd ever worked, but it was the best show she'd ever been in, best quality, most work. The show was the hardest show she'd ever been in, for sure. The singing and the acting and the dancing was the hardest thing she'd ever done. But she was so proud and happy. The only problem, though, is that doing that show hurt her a lot as well. She was told throughout it that she was the weak link, and that she was the problem. She tried to walk past it, but it really did deeply hurt her, and it stuck in her heart for a very long time. It shaped who she is today. But it also made her determined, and that you have to work hard. Luckily, she had very supportive people with her, and she kept going. The next show was the same Reimaginator, and she did the class again. You know, the price was increasing, and it was a life-changing day when they told her that the story they were doing was the exact same story from when she was 6. The one about the newsboys with the newspapers and the dancing and the singing and all of the hard things that they went through. She was finally going to be able to be in that play as a 14-year-old girl. She was finally going to be able to be in the play that shaped her life and that made her want to do this in the first place. She was honored. She cried. She openly wept when she found out that that was the show they were doing. Everyone worked really hard because they knew that the show was so unattainably difficult. They attained it. They had to learn new styles of dance they had never tried before, learn physical tricks that were dangerous and awesome. They had to learn how to act and really portray feeling and sing and act with the power that coursed through their veins. It was like magic, how they were able to make the audience feel. The audience openly cried like the day she did when she saw the show, and she was so proud of that. She was only a person in the background of the story. She was never an important character. Though this was the most important character she'd played so far because she did have a couple of lines, which made her really happy. It pushed her to her limits, and it changed her physically. She was stronger and more capable, happier and more capable of voice and singing and acting. And she respected everyone around her a lot more, even though some of them were just there to have fun, which deeply upset her, actually. She was very dedicated, and it seemed like a lot of people weren't. This is something that's a flaw that she will fix later. But she was very upset that people weren't taking this seriously. This was a dream show. This was the best. She finally got to be in the dream show. She was very happy. The next year, she did this class again, but the Imaginator changed to someone who was also very wonderful. They did a show with the story of a very famous bard who has to go to a town and perform before he gets taken away into a horrible battle. And that show was very unique, very interesting. And she got a lot of opportunity to do a lot of acting that she had never done before. It was different from the other show, though. It was more fun for everybody and a little less committed time and pain. But the little girl didn't see it as such. She treated that show just like as if it were the story of the Newsboys. She worked really hard to learn the dancing, the singing, and the acting, and to be fully committed 100% of the time. The next show that they did was a story of a bunch of kids in school. And the main boy really wants to do something, and the main girl too, I guess. They both really want to do something, but it's very abnormal and would make them lose friends. But they choose to do it anyways, and they find out that they love each other. They both decide to be bards instead of being a scholar and a soldier. It's a good story. Now, this little girl didn't believe that she was good enough. She was still told up to that very day that she was the weak link and that she was the problem. And she didn't really know if she could fit into all of that. And she came from such a humble grovel hole. And so she auditioned. She gave them her whole soul. She tried so hard. She gave them everything. And she thought that she had failed. She was believed that she would not get a good part and that she would have to just sit in the background again for the millionth time, which she was fine with because she loved being in the background. That's actually her favorite part of shows. But it just hurt when she was getting older and she wasn't going to be in these shows anymore because she's too old, and she worked so hard, and to be fair, she believed that she worked harder than the other people there, and that again is also a flaw that will be fixed later. But she committed so hard, and it was her whole soul. She wanted this to be her job, and these people around her get to barely work and float on by and get big important parts and main characters, and she gets to sit off to the side for working so hard. It didn't feel fair. And then she got told the characters and who was who. And she got the part she wanted. It wasn't a main character, but it had tons of lines. Tons of things to say, infinite things to say. It was a scholar at the school. The scholar that told the two kids that they can do whatever they want and that they should join the group of bards. Because she was the leader of the bards. And she was so happy. It was the part she wanted. It was her dream part. It was that character was who she wanted to be when she grew up, basically. And that helped her realize a lot about herself. She wanted to be a teacher, which is something that she has to learn how to do. And she wants to do acting for the rest of ever. She wants to be a storyteller. She also learned that she should probably try being a story reimaginer. a director, because that was something that her character did. She thought that she might like that too. She had a wonderful time and she worked her butt off. Also, around the time of the previous show, not the one I'm talking about right now, but the previous show, she had started an intense training regimen to learn and to get stronger. She danced for an hour every day. She sang for 2 hours a day. And she acted for more than an hour a day, every day. Double the time for singing because she didn't believe she could sing. She worked so hard. And it was clearly a jump up from the previous show because she'd worked so hard. But next year rolls around. And over that year, she auditioned for the summer circuit. She was finally old enough. Actually, she'd been old enough for a year now, but the previous year she knew she couldn't get in, so she didn't bother. But this year, she thought she had a chance. She auditioned, and in her mind, she did the best she physically could. But she got a disappointing letter in the mail, saying that she was not accepted this year and that she should try again next year. There was lots of reasons. She wanted to say excuses, but she knew they were good reasons on why. And those things were all true, but it still hurt, and that's no one's fault. She just had her heart set on it. But she was determined to try again next year. Also that same year, she did a competition for singing. And in her age category, she actually parred just right on with all the rest of her peers. She was really proud of herself. But she still didn't fully believe it. She told herself that she still couldn't sing, and that she still couldn't act. She still couldn't dance. And the only thing that she was really kind of good at there was acting. And her passion was the only thing that made up for the rest, kind of. So, she got a little bit more confidence. And the next audition, she put her whole soul on the line. And she gave them everything she physically could. She picked the hardest songs she'd ever done. And she was auditioning for this next big show. This next show for this kids group. And by the way, this is the last year she was able to do it. Because she was now an adult. And she couldn't do it next year. This show is about a young girl, almost the same age as her, a little bit younger, who finds a story. A written version of a story in a book. And she reads it, and it comes to life, and she falls in love with the main character. But it turns out to have all been fake. And she ends up having to figure out how to struggle through the real world, which usually sucks. The little girl was she understood this character well. She got it. But she knew that she was not going to be able to play her because she was the oldest of the cast. So instead, she decided that she wanted to be the mom character. And she knew that her songs in the play were very difficult. So she didn't really think she had a chance. But she was the oldest now. Literally. And she thought there's no way she didn't have to try. She had to try. So she worked and she worked and she found the hardest songs she could physically do. She did them. Oh, not the hardest song she could physically do. The hardest song she could do that she thought she could succeed at. She did a heart-wrenching monologue to show off her acting, not as a comedic character like she'd been before, but a deep, real, raw character. She practiced her dancing so that she'd be graceful and beautiful. And she got it. She got the part. It was the part she wanted. And she got to sing 2 full solo songs. She was so proud of herself. She performed really well. And she did the show, and it went great, and all of her peers were fantastic. During that time, she also got to work with another group of kids, where she was allowed to be the director. And she was working with another man, an adult, who was like her mentor, teaching her how to be a story reimaginer. She also did all the dancing as well, making sure that everyone looked good, and making sure they all knew what to do and how to do it. It was during this that all those things where I said, she'll figure that out later, or she'll fix that later, all those things began to fix there. She learned that a lot of people do this as a recreation, to relax and to see their friends, and that she shouldn't judge them based on their dedication if they're doing this for fun. Now, if they were getting paid, then maybe she could judge them a little bit, but they weren't getting paid. They were just doing this for fun, so they don't get to do that. But she realized how much work it takes to be a story reimaginer, and she fell in love with it. She told herself that either she was going to teach this to kids, or she was going to be a story reimaginer, or she was going to be an actor. There was no other option. She may take normal, small, odd jobs here and there to make sure she has enough money to live, but she would for certain do that for the rest of her life. She confirmed that pebble drop in her soul from a long time ago. She fully confirmed it through that show and the directed show. And she moved on. She is now a young adult, and she is trying to figure out which school, where to go, how to spend her time. Now, this may sound like a selfish journey. Me. I'm sad. I'm not good enough. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, I can. What? The deep point of all of this is the fact that she figured out what she wanted to do. And she went for it, no matter everyone else telling her that she can't. Because when that pebble drop moment happened, the thing she didn't realize when that happened, she didn't realize it until the year she played that teacher in the show about the two lovers that choose their own paths. She didn't realize that what she really wanted was to help people. That pebble drop wasn't just, I want to be an actor, I want to be a singer, I want to go and be a story reimaginer. No, she actually just wanted to help people. She wanted to teach people what they want to be. So there's also a part of her that kind of thinks that maybe being a life coach would be cool. But she really wants to help people know what they want to do with the rest of their lives. And now she's older, and she's trying to figure out how to do that. And she's proud of her decisions so far. And she's not gonna stop getting better at this. Never. Even if she doesn't succeed at her dream, and she has to get a normal job and work until she dies, she will not stop getting better and auditioning and working. Never, never. Not until she can't physically. She will keep singing and dancing and acting for the rest of her days. Now, that was a dumb story because y'all know that that was me and that I was just telling my story in a fantasy setting. But, yeah. I'm just an old lady now. But I'm telling you my story now because when I was younger, I decided that that wasn't like a thing I wanted to tell the world on the internet until I was an adult and I was older. And now that I am, I feel like I can tell you guys that. Yeah, now that I'm older, I feel like I can tell you guys my story. But yeah, for me, for this channel, I feel like it's insanely important that you guys understand me and where I'm coming from and why I want to do all this. So I'm glad that I got to have this conversation with you. Tell you this story because this is the most important part of me. Well, second most important part of me. Most important part of me is my religious beliefs, but my second most important part of me is where I want to go, what I want to do, and how I want to do it. And I intend on showing you guys that journey the whole time. Because I know I'm not going to be no pro YouTuber or whatever, but I hope that my story has helped someone in there know what they want to do with their lives. And I hope that I'll be able to help people through this as well. So it might be an ambitious goal. All of this might be insanely ambitious and ridiculous, but I don't really care. I'm gonna keep going. I'm grateful to have had this, and I'll see you guys with a happier, funner, more goofy video soon. Okay? Bye, beautiful people. Love you. See you.